I bought this PC off of Facebook Marketplace for a whopping $1. Yes, it was included in a bundle of 3 that I actually paid $300 for. However, he added it in because he thought that the motherboard was dead. A free PC, that's not bad. Now this little gem is actually a B150M motherboard, meaning that it has a 6th gen Intel processor and the graphics card is a GT710. I am thinking if I take that graphics card out, replace it with something like a 1060 or something that's low end, this could make for a pretty cool budget Fortnite PC.
Okay, who likes Fortnite?
Now guys, I have absolutely no idea why the power supply is sitting like that. It is quite obvious this PC has just been sitting idle around forever because the dust had settled on the top of objects rather than all through it, which would indicate that it's just been sitting there rather than fans blowing dust through everything. That does make my job easier, however, with cleaning the power supply because it actually looks pretty clean on the inside. The big thing that I see though is that this PC stinks. The CPU cooler is full of dust and grime, and the front of the case is starting to rust. I also found half a bug on one of the cables. There was probably a nest in here at one time, and there is also spider webs inside of this build. So we're gonna turn this little $1 gem into someone's dream low-end gaming PC. Let's get into it. I'm getting a new phone for Christmas, guys. Oh, but my old phone has like 9,000 photos and contacts and everything on it. Well, Dr.Fone will be able to help us out. Android utilizes Bluetooth for file transfer and Apple utilizes AirDrop. But how would I transfer from Android to iOS or Mac and vice versa? Well, Dr.Fone is the best solution which simplifies this whole process. You can move photos, videos, contacts, messages, and even apps between phones with just a few taps. Dr.Fone bridges the gap between different operating systems. Dr.Fone even excels at moving data from your phone to your computer, or even the other way around. I can back up my media in just a few clicks. You can do this wirelessly. In the app, select transfer, select phone to PC, tap scan code, and now you can send files between your PC and your phone. And if you're feeling lonely, you can even send yourself a message. For a new phone, click phone transfer. You can now transfer everything, including apps, contacts, photos, videos, and much more. After selecting the categories, hit start transfer. You can monitor the progress and cancel at any time. This process has never been made so simple, and you can check out the link in the video description where you can download Dr.Fone right now. Hasn't this case really cleaned up? I mean, remember when we first had it, there was so much rust on the front of the case. That is completely gone. We used CLR to completely remove the rust, and then we gave it a fresh paint job. Guys, there is no more dust inside this case and no more grime. There was also evidence of spillage in there, but it is completely gone now. No more spider webs either, and bugs. Yes, we completely cleaned it up. The smell is removed. It actually looks really good now. The only part that we can't really remove is little bits of scratches on this shiny part here. The shiny part really emphasizes the scratches as well. But that is from just general wear and tear over time, and there's not much we can really do about that. However, now that the case is all cleaned up, we can start the rebuild. Now, the GT710 indicates to me that this PC has been sitting in its spot for quite a while, and considering he had 3 PCs, this looks like it was probably one of his older ones. Now the reason I think this is because the graphics card has majority of the dust sitting on top of it, and as we know, dust settles on top and the bottom is actually pretty clean. Now, whether or not this works, I don't know, but I certainly want to try it out. The rear I/O also has a little bit of dust, a little bit of pitting. Hopefully we can clean all that up, but I don't see any real issues with it. Once we get all of the stickiness and the dust off, I think it should work, but I will be swapping it out anyway for a better graphics card. Our GT710, that had dust and grime all over it, also had a bit of pitting and rust on the I/O at the back here. I am really curious if this thing still works. There's nothing on it which suggests that it wouldn't, however, we never know. Even though I am going to be swapping out the graphics card, I still want to test it out just to see what could it do in Fortnite. What could it do? But guys, we put fresh thermal paste on there, cleaned the whole PCB as well with isopropyl alcohol, so we'll wait and see if it works. The fan itself actually looks pretty good considering the state of a lot of other fans in previous builds. There's a little bit of dust and stickiness to it, but not as much as we're used to seeing, especially on the backside of the fan. That's usually the worst. Don't get me wrong, there still is a lot of dust, but definitely not as bad. Now, where it gets bad is there is evidence of a spillage or something in the build, and this is evident here with the absolutely terrible rusting of this nail and also the calcium buildup, I guess you would call it. But yeah, it's all over it, and that is also evident on the front of the case as well in sections. Something has definitely been spilt in this build. I am just not sure what. Talk about a transformation. The fan cleaned up really well, and while it wasn't as bad as some of the other fans that we've had in the past, it still did have that grease and grime all over it and evidence of spillage inside the case. However, we've removed all that. It is nice and clean. Actually looks like a brand new fan. This was the only fan inside the case as well, so I'm gonna have to add a couple extra, at least one more. I want one intake and one exhaust at minimum, so we'll go ahead and do that. I'll find a fan laying around somewhere, I'm sure. The cooler itself is caked with dust. Every single time I take a step, more and more stuff falls out. I mean, you can shake it out and it's kind of like putting salt on your dinner. You get some pretty crazy and wild flavors out of this for sure. Now the fan is definitely grimy and sticky, especially underneath, so we are going to fully strip this apart, and we do need to give the heatsink a really good clean with the toothbrush. The toothbrush bristles are the only things that's really going to reach in there because it is absolutely caked. Now at the rear here you can see the thermal paste as well. The application is completely dry, so if it was used recently, I'm surprised that the CPU wasn't overheating. It's just crackling, nothing wet's coming off or anything like that, so it's definitely long overdue for a new thermal paste application. This CPU cooler was the worst. There was so much dust caked in between all of the fins of the heatsink, and each time I would move it, there'd be more and more dust that would fall out. That's quite disgusting. But we got the toothbrush in there and also the pipe cleaner. That one came in very handy for going in between all of the fins where the toothbrush bristles couldn't actually reach. And now that it's all cleaned up, it should be able to breathe a bit more and cool more efficiently. The power supply also tells a consistent story with the system being sitting there for a while because the power supply was on its side. The top collected a lot of dust, however, there is not much dust on the inside. In fact, it looks really clean. I am going to see if I can get in there and just take a look anyway, because this has happened before, but all of the dust is located underneath the fan or down in there, but from first looks, it looks really clean. At the top, it's just gonna need a bit of a wipe over. The cables also are very dusty and they look very grimy, so I don't know if I'll soak them, just give them a wipe over. I'm sure I could get some degreaser on it, but there is a lot that could fix this quite easily. I mean, what a transformation with this power supply. There was actually a sticker that was on here, and I hate using this double-sided tape, but it's that double-sided tape that's kind of like foamy on the inside. That stuff sticks and does not come off, so you need to break it off. You need to get isopropyl alcohol in there to remove the residue. We spent a while on that trying to get it off, and it looks brand new now, and we were able to keep this sticker intact, which is absolutely amazing. Now, I did go on the inside of here. It actually looked really good. The main affected area was pretty much just on the top where the dust had settled, so we got that all cleaned up. A simple wipe over was enough there. And the cables themselves had dust all in amongst them, and we got the toothbrush right in there, cleaned those all up, so there's not a speck of dust anymore. Hopefully this power supply works, so we'll just have to wait and see. The build has 4 hard drives in total. They are each 1 terabyte. This one seems to be the worst one of the bunch. It is sticky, grimy, and full of dust as well. It was also the top one, which explains why there is more dust, especially in this portion, which was exposed. Dust over time just fell on it, I guess. There's not much that needs to be done with this, apart from a bit of a wipe over, so it's not too bad. I did notice, however, there is a lot of scraping on the edges here, which suggests to me that this hard drive has either been dropped or something else has happened with it. I'm not 100% sure what could have happened, but it's definitely received some scraping or something has been dropped on it, whether it's a liquid of some kind, I have no idea. So we have a total of 4 terabytes worth of hard drive storage. That is 4 1 terabyte drives. Western Digital Black. Now, there wasn't really too much wrong with it. It is quite evident around the outside that either it was scraped, dropped, or something happened to it. I'm not 100% sure, just because of all the scratches and pitting that's all over it. However, the main part of this was it just needed a big wipe over because of the surface dust that had collected on there over time, which also formed like this thin layer of grease as well. So a bit of isopropyl alcohol was able to cut through that, and we now have our hard drives as good as new. Honestly, there's not too much to say about the RAM. It's from Crucial. It's an 8GB stick running at 2133 megahertz. It's pretty clean. There's a little bit of dust on there, so a general wipe over will be enough. I did notice that they probably installed this after installing the CPU thermal paste, because there is a little bit of thermal paste on the RAM stick itself, but a simple wipe over will take that off. Well, fingers crossed this motherboard actually works, guys. He did say that one of the PCs has a broken motherboard, and considering that the power supply was kind of half taken out and all unplugged, it seems like maybe this PC had some issues and he was trying to figure it out. Now we have dust all over this and it is sticky. There is dust all in between all of the rear IO here, so it really needs the toothbrush in there. I might even get the pipe cleaner in between the gaps just to make sure we get every single little bit of dust. A little bit of isopropyl alcohol should remove that stickiness as well. The CPU socket itself has loads of dust caked in there. The majority of it should be able to be removed just by using the blower on it. And the CPU just happens to be an i5-6400. The RAM slots themselves have dust caked in there, but that's no problem for the toothbrush. We'll be able to get right in there. Down the bottom here, we have all of our IO as well. That is fully caked with dust, so we're gonna have to go along, get the toothbrush in there, and really clean this up thoroughly. Check this out, guys. Our little B150M motherboard is all cleaned up. We got all of that dust out of the RAM slots, all over the PCIe lanes. It's all completely cleaned up. One of the worst parts was down on this IO at the bottom of the motherboard and in between the IO here at the rear. However, the CPU socket was definitely the worst. There was so much dust caked in, especially around the top of it. I did remove the CPU and I checked out the pins. The pins all looked good. So if this doesn't work, I don't think it's a CPU socket issue, but I think we've done a great job in cleaning it up. I have put the original battery back in as well. If the motherboard doesn't work, then I'll try a new battery too, just to rule that out. But I'm glad that we've cleaned it all up. All right guys, we got the original graphics card in there. It is time to see whether this PC works or not. I am not getting any power, guys. I'm gonna try and bridge the power switch on the motherboard and see if that works. Zero power. All right, it's time to figure this out. The power supply fan isn't even turning on when I have bridged the 24 pin. So it could be a power supply issue. Let's go try another power supply. All right guys, well I got no other power supplies, so I can have this monstrosity. Let's see if it can get some power. Still nothing. All right, well we at least know that this power supply gets power because the fan has started, so the power supply could be dead and the motherboard could be dead. Well guys, we have a big motherboard upgrade. This is a Z170 Asus AR motherboard. We've kept the same CPU. As you can see, the CPU socket is empty. I upgraded the cooler and I'm going to see whether the graphics card works or not. And we have the other power supply as well that we know works. Let's turn it on and see what happens. Well guys, looks like the GPU's dead as well. I mean, honestly, it doesn't really matter considering this PC was pretty much for free and we're gonna swap the GPU anyway. So I actually have a GTX 980 I would like to try. I think it'll be good enough for some low-end Fortnite. So we'll put that in and we'll see if that works. Would you look at that guys? The RAM works, the CPU works, the motherboard's working and the graphics card and the power supply. So it looks like we salvaged a case, CPU and RAM out of it, which honestly, considering we got it for free, that's not a bad deal. Let's rebuild it. Let's test out the performance. Anyway guys, as you can tell, I not a Fortnite player really, but we'll give it a try. The GPU is sitting around 70 degrees Celsius. CPU is around 50 degrees. It's not too bad actually. And we're seeing around it's kind of fluctuating between 60 and 75 FPS. Now it's gone up to 80. Guys, I really have no idea what I'm doing, but we are 1080p medium settings at the moment. It doesn't really drop below 60 too much. However, there are times like right now, for example, where it drops down to around 55, sometimes the high 40s. Yeah, so it's quite interesting. This PC with the 980 is definitely able to handle Fortnite. You can see we're at usually around that 70 FPS mark, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure if we'd be able to go to high settings or not. I think I'm pretty comfortable 1080p medium settings.